Imagine a blast so powerful it vaporized an entire ship into thin air. An explosion that created a tsunami 60 feet high and a force so violent it completely lifted the ocean floor out of the water. For just one moment, picture yourself standing at your window, watching a ship burning in the distance. Until suddenly, everything goes dark. This is not fiction. The statistics are almost impossible to comprehend. 1,782 people dead, 9,000 injured, 1,600 buildings obliterated in an instant, and 25,000 people, half the city's population, left homeless in the bitter Canadian winter. On that December morning in Halifax, Nova Scotia, the largest man-made explosion before the atomic bomb changed a city forever. It would blind hundreds in an instant, shatter lives, and leave a crater where a bustling port once stood. But here's what most history books never tell you about that fateful morning. The year is 1917. World War I has turned Halifax Harbor into one of the busiest ports in North America. Ships loaded with troops, munitions, and supplies gather here before crossing the Atlantic in protected convoys. Think about it. Thousands of tons of explosives passing through a crowded civilian port every day. This wasn't just a disaster waiting to happen, it was practically inevitable. On the morning of December 6th, the French cargo ship Mont-Blanc entered the harbor. Below her decks, a deadly cocktail of explosives. These weren't ordinary munitions. Picric acid is more powerful than TNT. Benzol is highly flammable. Combined, they created a floating bomb with nearly 3 times the explosive power of the first atomic weapons tests. Yet remarkably, the Mont-Blanc carried no warning flags. No special precautions were taken. Most ships passing by had no idea of the danger. In the opposite direction came the Norwegian vessel Imo, chartered to carry relief supplies to Belgium. The Imo was behind schedule and its captain was in a hurry. The narrow channel of Halifax Harbor, known as the Narrows, was about to become the stage for disaster. Maritime law was clear. Vessels should pass port to port, left side to left side. But on this day, the Imo was sailing on the wrong side of the channel. As the ships spotted each other, a series of horn blasts echoed across the water. But confusion reigned. The Mont-Blanc turned one way, the Imo another. At 8:45 a.m., the inevitable happened. The Imo's bow struck the Mont-Blanc's starboard side, tearing into the hull. The collision itself was relatively minor, but what happened next would change everything. The impact had ruptured barrels of benzol on the Mont-Blanc's deck. When the ships scraped together, sparks ignited the highly flammable liquid. Within seconds, fire engulfed the deck. The Mont-Blanc's captain, Aimé Lemedec, knew exactly what would happen if the flames reached the explosives below. He gave the order that saved his crew, but doomed many others. Abandon ship. The crew fled in lifeboats, rowing frantically for the far shore. But there was a critical problem. They were French-speaking in an English-speaking city. As they reached shore, they tried desperately to warn anyone who would listen. Le bateau va exploser, éloignez-vous! The ship will explode, get away. But few understood. And those who did couldn't fathom the scale of the danger. Meanwhile, the abandoned Mont-Blanc, now fully ablaze, drifted toward Pier 6 in the most populated section of Halifax's waterfront. The spectacle drew hundreds of onlookers. Workers paused their morning routines. Children pressed against schoolroom windows. Families gathered on porches and at windows to watch the burning ship. The Halifax Fire Department responded quickly, unaware of the deadly cargo. They were heading directly into an apocalypse. For 20 critical minutes, the fire burned hotter and hotter. The Mont-Blanc's black smoke could be seen for miles. Inside the ship's hull, the temperature was rising to critical levels. The picric acid was becoming unstable. The TNT was melting. No one in Halifax knew they were watching a ticking bomb. No one knew these were the final moments of life as they knew it. At precisely 9:04:35 a.m. December 6, 1917, the Mont-Blanc exploded. The numbers are almost incomprehensible. 2.9 kilotons of TNT equivalent, a fifth of the power of the Hiroshima bomb that would come 28 years later. The temperature at the center of the blast reached 5,000 degrees Celsius, hot enough to vaporize steel and turn sand into glass. The explosion created a vacuum that sucked air back toward the blast center, generating hurricane-force winds that tore buildings apart from the inside out. The Mont Blanc itself ceased to exist. Its 90-foot, 1,140-pound anchor shaft was found 2.5 miles away. A gun barrel landed 3.5 miles from the harbor. The pressure wave traveled faster than sound, flattening everything within a half-mile radius. Brick buildings collapsed like cards. Iron railings bent like rubber. The shock was so powerful it was recorded by seismographs 125 miles away. The sound was heard in Cape Breton, 220 miles distant. But the most horrifying effect was invisible until it was too late. The pressure wave shattered every window in the city, turning ordinary glass into deadly projectiles. Remember those spectators at the windows? In that single instant, over 1,000 people suffered eye injuries. More than 200 lost both eyes completely, the largest mass blinding in human history. Vincent Coleman, a railway dispatcher, sent a final telegraph before the explosion. "Hold up the train! Ammunition ship afire in harbor making for Pier 6 and will explode. Guess this will be my last message. Goodbye, boys." His message saved a passenger train carrying hundreds of people, stopping it outside the blast radius. Coleman himself was killed instantly. The explosion triggered a tsunami that reached 60 feet high, as tall as a 6-story building. For a brief, surreal moment, the harbor floor was completely exposed as water was displaced by the blast, before rushing back with devastating power. The tsunami wiped out the Mi'kmaq First Nation settlement of Turtle Grove on the opposite shore, an entire community gone in seconds. The human toll defies comprehension. 1,782 people confirmed dead, though many bodies were never found. Over 9,000 injured, including 6,000 with life-altering injuries. 1,600 buildings destroyed instantly, with 12,000 more damaged. 25,000 people, nearly half of Halifax's population, were left homeless, with winter approaching. And then nature added its own cruelty. The next day, December 7th, a blizzard hit Halifax. 16 inches of snow buried the rubble, freezing the injured and hampering rescue efforts. The temperature dropped to 10 degrees Fahrenheit, 12 degrees Celsius. Survivors described the moments after the blast as "alive with eyes," a reference to the countless wounded with eye injuries stumbling through the streets. The Richmond district closest to the explosion simply ceased to exist. Where there had been homes, schools, and churches, there was nothing but flattened rubble and fire. In the face of unimaginable horror, humanity showed its best side. Within 12 hours, relief trains were rushing to Halifax from across Canada and the northeastern United States, carrying doctors, nurses, and supplies. Boston's response was particularly swift. Massachusetts Governor Samuel McCall immediately dispatched a train carrying 30 doctors, 70 nurses, and a full field hospital. The Boston medical team battled through the blizzard, arriving the morning after the explosion. They would stay for weeks, saving countless lives. Their kindness has never been forgotten. Every year since 1971, Nova Scotia has sent a massive Christmas tree to Boston, a tradition now over 50 years old. The disaster revolutionized emergency response and medicine. The mass of eye injuries led surgeon Dr. George Cox to pioneer new techniques in ophthalmology. Halifax itself was rebuilt stronger than before. A new urban plan emphasized safety, with wider streets and stronger buildings. Maritime regulations were overhauled globally. New protocols were established for ships carrying hazardous materials, including dedicated shipping lanes and clear warning signals. The Halifax Relief Commission, created to manage reconstruction, became a model for disaster response organizations worldwide. The Halifax Explosion remains one of history's deadliest disasters, yet it's surprisingly absent from many history books. It killed more people than the Great San Francisco earthquake of 1906. It caused more destruction than the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Yet it's often overshadowed by the World War that was raging when it occurred. Perhaps its most important legacy is how it changed our understanding of risk. Every modern safety protocol for dangerous cargo traces some of its DNA back to Halifax. The annual memorial service includes these words: "We are thankful for those who came to our aid, grateful for those who rebuilt our city, and mindful that what we have is fragile and must be protected." If you found this story compelling, hit subscribe and share your thoughts below. Until next time.